On a bright day at a private beach located far from the bustle of the city, SUGA, together with the other BTS members, enjoyed a holiday moment that had been long awaited after running through a packed schedule. They chose this place not because they wanted to create a buzz in the media, but rather to find calmness, fresh sea air, and a space to simply let go of the fatigue from stages and studios. From the morning, the atmosphere was relaxed, as the staff who accompanied them only ensured that technical needs were fulfilled without much interference. SUGA was seen walking slowly along the shoreline, while some of the other members were more active, trying out light water sports provided by the venue. This created an interesting contrast between the calmer personalities and the more expressive ones, yet ultimately all met in a simple togetherness. SUGA did not seem eager to be at the center of attention. He often gazed at the sea and occasionally sat on a lounge chair prepared beforehand, sipping a cold drink while watching the others playing in the water. From a distance, laughter could be heard, not in a noisy way, but rather as an expression of relief after such a long period living under tight schedules filled with pressure. The activities then continued with a group lunch in an open area facing the sea. The dishes served were not overly luxurious, mostly dominated by fresh seafood caught from nearby waters. SUGA appeared to appreciate that simplicity, eating calmly, unhurriedly, and enjoying the rare chance of sitting at a long table with the members without television cameras or stage lights. His face looked relaxed, as if the energy usually spent on writing music and performing in front of thousands was replaced with the ease of a shared moment with people he already considered family. After lunch, some members returned to the beach for more play, while SUGA preferred to walk slowly around the resort area, paying attention to small details like passing fishing boats, seagulls swooping down to look for food, or simply the constant sound of waves hitting the rocks. For a musician like him, such details often became sources of inspiration, though during this holiday, it was clear he let himself remain free of tools, notes, or recording, choosing only to absorb the atmosphere. On the other side, younger members were still full of energy, running on the sand, playing with a small ball, or trying out paddleboards. SUGA did not join in, but did not distance himself either. He was present as both observer and part of the group, enjoying the dynamic without needing to participate in every activity. In the late afternoon, they gathered again in a large gazebo to wait for the sunset. This became a favorite part of the day, as the orange light falling onto the sea surface brought a warm nuance rarely enjoyed together. SUGA leaned back comfortably, letting the sea breeze brush his hair, and his expression showed a quiet contentment seldom visible in public. There were no hidden agendas, no big activities planned, only empty time filled with the experience of normal life. As the sky grew darker, small lights around the resort were turned on, adding a tranquil and intimate tone. The evening closed with a simple dinner, light exchanges among members, and slow walks back to their rooms. The day was not filled with dramatic events, yet in that lay its value, as someone like SUGA could rediscover the simple routines often absent from the life of a major celebrity. This holiday episode ended calmly, leaving the impression that happiness often comes not from extraordinary things, but from the chance to pause, breathe fresh air, and be in a place that feels safe with people who have been part of one's journey for a long time. The next morning began with a quieter rhythm as the members adjusted to the relaxed schedule that the beach resort naturally offered, and SUGA in particular seemed to enjoy this shift away from alarms, rehearsals, and the constant rush that usually define their days in the city. He woke early but without the pressure of obligations, stepping outside his room to find the soft light of the rising sun stretching over the horizon, painting the sea in shades of gold and pink. Instead of immediately joining the others, he chose to sit on the veranda with a cup of warm tea, appreciating the silence broken only by the sound of waves and occasional chirpings of birds hidden in the nearby trees. Slowly, the atmosphere became livelier as other members emerged, some heading directly to the breakfast area, some wandering toward the beach with cameras in hand to capture the morning scene. SUGA eventually joined the group for breakfast, which once again was served in a casual, open-air setting with a mix of fruit, fresh bread, and simple local dishes. The mood around the table reflected an ease that rarely accompanied their meals during tours or promotional periods, where food was often consumed in haste between commitments. Here, however, they took their time, and SUGA in particular ate slowly while listening to the lighthearted chatter around him. After breakfast, the group divided into smaller circles of activities. Some members were curious to try snorkeling in the clear water near the reef, while others preferred to stay on the sand, building temporary shelters or simply lying down under the umbrellas. SUGA maintained his preference for slower engagement, strolling toward a shaded part of the beach where he could watch the sea without being fully in the crowd. He eventually joined in a short walk along the coastline with two other members, not as an energetic exercise, but more as a way to explore the natural surroundings. The walk revealed small fishing boats anchored not far from shore, a reminder that despite the exclusivity of the resort, the environment still lived in harmony with the daily livelihoods of local communities. SUGA observed this with quiet attention, perhaps recognizing the value of such authenticity amid a life that was often filled with curated and staged moments. As the sun reached its peak and the air grew hotter, they retreated back to the shaded areas of the resort. Lunch that day was lighter, consisting mostly of cool dishes and refreshing drinks. SUGA continued to radiate the calm that marked his entire stay, often sitting slightly apart but never distant, enjoying the rhythm of life that unfolded naturally. In the afternoon, when several members engaged in more physically demanding games on the sand, he remained on the sidelines, occasionally smiling at their antics, occasionally closing his eyes to absorb the soundscape of laughter, wind, and water. Later in the day, the group agreed to take a short boat ride offered by the resort staff. It was not a long journey, only circling a nearby small island, but it offered them a perspective of the coastline they had been inhabiting for days. SUGA stood near the side of the boat, hair ruffled by the breeze, his gaze fixed on the endless line of water that seemed to stretch into quiet infinity. The experience was simple, yet meaningful, especially for people accustomed to spending so much time indoors or on airplanes shuttling between cities. The ride lasted less than an hour, and upon returning, they found the sun already starting its slow descent. The group naturally gravitated back toward the gazebo where they had spent the previous evening, repeating the ritual of watching the colors change over the ocean. SUGA once again settled into comfortable position, almost contemplative, while the others shared snacks and drinks. As night approached, the resort lit a small bonfire on the beach, creating a warm glow that became the centerpiece of their evening. They sat around it, each member with their own rhythm of interaction, and SUGA remained present in his understated way, absorbing rather than leading the flow of the gathering. The day ended not with the spectacle, but with the natural fading of energy as one by one they returned to their rooms, leaving the beach quiet once again. In the simple continuity of meals, walks, and shared views of the sea, SUGA found a sense of rest that seemed rare and precious, marking the second day of their holiday as another chapter of calm that balanced both togetherness and solitude.
The third day unfolded with a consistency that reflected the natural rhythm of a holiday, unhurried and balanced between group activities and individual preferences. And SUGA once again seemed to anchor himself in that rhythm with quiet steadiness. The morning began slightly later for everyone compared to the previous day, as the comfort of rest appeared to hold them longer in their rooms. By the time the sun had already risen higher, the members slowly gathered at the outdoor dining area, where a variety of breakfast items awaited. The table carried the same unpretentious arrangement of fruit, bread, and warm dishes, and the air was filled with the background sound of waves rolling into the shore. SUGA sat near the middle of the group this time, not seeking the periphery, calmly eating while watching the casual exchanges flow among the members. The day's plan involved more exploration of the surroundings, and after finishing their meals, the group prepared for a short guided walk into the nearby coastal village. The path from the resort to the village was not long, but it gave them a glimpse of daily life outside the curated calm of their retreat. SUGA walked with a measured pace, sometimes trailing slightly behind as if to observe more carefully the details of fishing that's drying in the sun, children playing by the roadside, or elderly residents tending to small gardens. The visit was informal, without the formality of cameras or scheduled appearances, allowing the members to blend into the environment as respectful visitors. Upon arriving in the village, they were welcomed with simple hospitality, offered fresh coconuts and small local snacks prepared spontaneously. SUGA accepted the drink with a quiet nod, standing near the edge of the group as others interacted more actively. His presence, though understated, carried a certain attentiveness, as if he was carefully registering the textures and colors of the experience without needing to comment. After spending some time in the village, the group returned to the resort for lunch, where the conversation naturally drifted to impressions of the walk and appreciation for the slower, grounded life they had just observed. For SUGA, the experience seemed to reinforce the calm that had defined his days there, giving him not only rest, but also perspective. In the afternoon, while several members went back to water activities, SUGA chose to remain under the shade with a notebook in hand, not for work, but rather to casually jot down impressions and loose words that came to mind. He did not appear to be drafting lyrics or working on compositions, but rather capturing fragments of thought that could later serve as reminders of this temporary pause in their busy lives. As the day moved toward evening, a new arrangement awaited them. The resort had prepared a long table directly on the sand for dinner, decorated modestly with lanterns and simple floral touches. The setting was intimate, facing the sea where the horizon slowly shifted colors under the setting sun. SUGA joined the group at the table, his demeanor reflecting the same ease that had accompanied him since the start of the trip. The meal was leisurely, punctuated by laughter from the younger members and quiet smiles from those who preferred a gentler pace. SUGA ate steadily, occasionally lifting his gaze toward the waves that were barely visible under the growing darkness. After dinner, they remained seated for a while, letting the evening stretch without hurry. The sound of the tide became the backdrop to their shared silence and scattered conversations. SUGA leaned back slightly, hands resting loosely, the fire from nearby lanterns casting soft shadows on his face. The moment was unremarkable in dramatic terms, but in its ordinariness lay the essence of what they sought from this holiday, a chance to be present without obligation, to let time move without measurement. The third day closed with the group dispersing slowly, some lingering longer near the shore, others returning to their rooms, while SUGA walked calmly back along the sand, leaving light footprints that the waves soon washed away. It was another day where nothing extraordinary occurred, yet the simplicity of each sequence added to the quiet weight of memory, showing how rest and togetherness could exist without spectacle. On the fourth day, the atmosphere of the holiday had settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and restorative, and SUGA appeared to embrace this natural flow without resistance, moving through the hours with the same measured calm that had defined his presence since their arrival. The morning began with a softer light filtered through thin clouds, casting a silver tone over the sea. And while some members headed straight to the beach to stretch and take photographs, SUGA took his time with a slow walk to the dining area, where breakfast was once again served in a casual open-air setting. He selected a simple plate of fruit and bread, ate at his own pace,
and looked out at the view as if to hold it more firmly in memory. The group had decided that day to spend more time collectively at the beach rather than separating into smaller circles of activities, and SUGA joined them in his understated way, walking down toward the shoreline with a hat shielding his face from the sun. The members arranged themselves on lounge chairs, some applying sunscreen, others preparing cameras or sports equipment, and while energy levels varied across the group, the sense of shared leisure remained consistent. SUGA eventually found a shaded spot under an umbrella where he sat with a book he had brought along, not intensely reading, but occasionally turning a page while glancing at the scenery around him. From his position, he could observe the younger members running into the water, splashing, laughing, and calling out to each other, though he remained quiet, content to let their vitality unfold while he maintained a slower rhythm. The hours passed with the sound of waves mingling with the activity of the group, and SUGA remains anchored in that balance of solitude within togetherness. When midday came, lunch was served slightly closer to the beach, allowing them to eat without retreating fully into the resort. Once again, the dishes were light and fresh, dominated by seafood and fruit, and SUGA joined the long table, eating in silence, interspersed with gentle nods or faint smiles directed at his companions. After lunch, some members returned to the water, while others retreated to their rooms to rest. SUGA chose a middle path, strolling once again along the coastline, his pace unhurried, his eyes occasionally scanning the horizon where small boats dotted the distance. He paused at intervals, letting the breeze brush against his face, and stood long enough in one place that the water touched his feet repeatedly before he stepped back to drier sand. In these pauses, there was no urgency, only the sense of someone allowing time to pass naturally without the usual obligations pulling him elsewhere. By late afternoon, the group gradually reconvened near the gazebo, repeating the by now familiar ritual of watching the sun descend. This time the sky was clearer, the orange and pink shades painting a vivid panorama over the calm water, and the members settled into seats with drinks and light snacks. SUGA leaned back with his arms loosely crossed, his gaze fixed outward, his expression carrying that same quiet satisfaction of someone who recognized the gift of ordinary beauty. As darkness settled, the resort staff prepared another outdoor dinner, but this time slightly more festive, with soft music playing in the background and lanterns placed closer together to cast a warmer light. The meal stretched leisurely as the group lingered long after finishing their plates, talking in low voices, sometimes laughing, sometimes just sitting in comfortable silence. SUGA participated without force, his presence steady, his demeanor unshaken by the surrounding energy, embodying a calm that contrasted yet complemented the liveliness around him. After dinner, they moved closer to the shore where a few mats had been laid out, and the group settled there to watch the night sky, the stars emerging clearly against the dark backdrop of the sea. SUGA lay back for a while, hands folded behind his head, eyes directed upward as though allowing himself to drift briefly into thought. The sounds of the sea accompanied them until the group, one by one, rose to return to their rooms. SUGA remained seated a little longer, still facing the horizon that now lay in complete darkness, before quietly standing and making his way back along the sand. The fourth day closed with no spectacle, no disruption, only the quiet endurance of moments that stacked gently on one another, leaving behind a memory of stillness, simplicity, and the understated fulfillment of being at rest.